Record murder rates, a wide open southern border for millions of illegal aliens, the collapse of Afghanistan, the blink of an eye, and an inflation rate that's making it more difficult for Americans to make ends meet. President Biden hasn't even been in office for a full year yet. We'll take a look at the many failures of the Biden administration in tonight's Hold the Line. Welcome to Hold the Line. I'm Buck Sexton. So look at the Biden administration from the top down level and think about it this way. What are they doing well? What aspect of this Biden administration is a success so far? You can take a moment with that. Maybe some people, some partisans out there would have something to say. But now I'm going to take you through the other side of it. Let's look at the disasters. Let's look at the areas of policymaking, of decision-making from this White House that are clearly catastrophic. For example, the border. The border is probably worse now than it has ever been since we've been paying attention to illegal crossings of the border, certainly than it's ever been in recent memory, going back now for decades. Here's migrant encounters over the month of July, and by that they mean, including apprehensions. The blue line is this year. This is showing you a comparison, but 212,672 encounters in July. We're setting records here, okay? We're setting records for illegal entry to the United States. They told us that over the summer months there would be a decline in these illegal crossings. That did not turn out to be the case. You should not be surprised. They lie to you about a lot of things. So we know the border is wide open just based on the numbers. People are coming in. They're coming from all over the world. They're coming from far south of even the Northern Triangle and east and west across oceans to get into the United States. Over 70 countries now represented by those who are illegally crossing in the U.S. So that's a total disaster, and it's because the Biden administration wants it to be open. They want an open border. They went against the Trump administration policies that actually secured the border, didn't want to build a wall, didn't want to do remain in Mexico. But there you go, there's one. How's the economy going? Well, Biden wants to tell you it's pretty good. Here he is.
Today, I'm pleased to share more good news with the American people. The latest report on consumer prices show that we've expanded some easing, the expected easing we thought was going to come has increased, that we've seen a good monthly report.
Yeah, saying it's good, right? That's what he wants you to believe. Meanwhile, there's this thing called inflation that's out there, right? Some of these things that they can't run or hide from because you're feeling it, you're seeing it. It's just the reality of what's going on in the economy. Fox Business yesterday had this one. Producer prices soar 7.8% annually in July, the most on record. That's a big 1 month spike in producer prices, isn't it? Well, the most ever, so that's pretty obvious. You're also seeing inflation that we were told a couple of months ago would be transitory, look more and more like it's systemic and long term. Places where you're seeing this, the cost of used vehicles, for example, way up. The cost of food going up. Oh, but you did save about 14 pennies, they told you, on your 4th of July barbecue. That's what the White House wanted you to believe. But if you added in the cost of the oil or the gas for your car to actually get to the grocery store, that would have felt pretty different. And Biden is now in a place where he feels he has to blame the high gas prices on those evil OPEC folks.
So today, my director of the National Economic Council has asked the chair of the Federal Trade Commission to use every available tool to monitor the U.S. gasoline market and address any illegal conduct that might be contributing to price increases at the pump while the cost of barrel oil is going down. We also made clear to OPEC, the major oil exporting nations of the world, that the production cuts made during the pandemic should be reversed as the global economy recovers in order to lower prices for consumers.
Yeah. That sounds like that's really compelling, right? You think the price of gas is going to drop now because of whatever Biden was mumbling there? I don't think so. He doesn't even think so, but he's got to say something, right? Whatever his handlers tell him. And then there's Afghanistan. You want to talk about a catastrophe? Good heavens. What a total mess dissolving. It's not even we're just leaving. The country right now, the whole national government of Afghanistan is dissolving. The military is running and hiding and actually just joining the other side in many cases, or just giving up entirely without a fight. Here are some of the headlines for the past week. NBC News, Taliban seizes cities across Afghanistan as U.S. readies final withdrawal. Associated Press, Taliban sweep across Afghanistan south, take 4 more cities. CNBC, Taliban sees 2 of Afghanistan's largest cities as U.S. sends troops to evacuate embassy staff. Yeah, that's right. We're getting to our fall of Saigon moment here. We can all see it. It's quite obvious. Except for this Biden White House, this administration, they want you to think that somehow this is in the plan or they were ready for this when we all know they weren't. Here's Pentagon spokesman John Kirby on the situation.
We have been watching this from a very early period, right after the president gave us the order to draw down. We certainly have been watching what the Taliban is doing. We have noted, and we have noted with great concern, the speed with which they have been moving and the lack of resistance that they have faced. And we have been nothing but honest about that.
It's a mess. It's a disaster. We can all see it. We all know it. But they want to pretend that that's not what's happening, that they're somehow still in control of this. Meanwhile, there's another disaster that has, I'm sorry, I know it's a Friday. I wish I could send you home with some good news tonight, or send you off into your weekend thinking that everything's just going to be fine in this country. We haven't even talked about COVID yet. That'll be coming up later. But you got murder rates soaring in major cities. The year-over-year increase, we pulled these numbers for you. 327% in Portland, Sacramento 64%, Philadelphia 23%, Boston 42%, Los Angeles 23%. National average up 13%. But I mean, some of those cities have had huge year-over-year. Remember, last year was a terrible year for the increase in homicides. The homicide rate continued to increase in 2021. And this is, of course, a function of shameless Democrat pandering, shameless BLM pandering that was going on over the last 18 months. The undermining, systemically, you could say, of law enforcement, refusing to back the blue so they could keep our community safe. This is all at the feet of the Democrat Party and the narrative of the left that cops are systemically racist. And so what happens? Well, law enforcement is less able to do their jobs. And then that means that people suffer in communities from higher rates of shootings and murders. And those, by the way, are communities that are disproportionately, by the numbers, Black and Latino across America. So what have the Democrats been able to accomplish with all of their anti-police rhetoric? More terrible things, unfortunately. More violence on the streets. More destabilized cities. So what are we seeing here with the Biden administration? I think it's summed up pretty well by former President Trump. He released a statement today, tragic mess in Afghanistan, a completely open and broken border, crime at record levels, oil prices through the roof, inflation rising, and taken advantage of by the entire world. In all caps, do you miss me yet? Former President Trump says. Sir, to those of us who are somewhat rational, reasonable, paying attention, the answer is yes. Yes, we do. All right, the fall of Afghanistan to the Taliban is looking increasingly inevitable. Bill Roggio from the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies joins me next to update us on the situation on the ground. First, I want to tell you about my friends at My Digital Money. Everybody wants to invest in cryptocurrency, it feels like, but it's not easy to get started. You don't want to make mistakes. That's why Colin Plume, the CEO of Noble Gold, created My Digital Money. It's an easy-to-use, self-trading crypto IRA platform with concierge-level customer service. It's one of the few U.S.-based cryptocurrency companies that will answer your phone calls and help you get started. Because your comfort and security is their absolute top priority. So they offer an unparalleled military-grade security for your coins, trigger orders to help you secure opportunities for gains or limit losses without having to watch your account 24/7, a play money account so you can test the market without risking your money. And with the recent pullback of most of the major cryptocurrencies, this could be a great time to get started. When it comes to your money, you deserve a team of dedicated professionals who are going to speak to you honestly, treat you like a human. Check them out at mydigitalmoney.com. That's mydigitalmoney.com. Bill Roggio coming up next. Stay with us. Well, it took all of 3 months for Afghanistan to collapse. The Taliban captured another 3 provincial capitals today, completing their sweep of the country south in an effort to gradually encircle Afghanistan's capital. And while Western embassies Prepare to send forces to help evacuate staff from Kabul. President Biden is moving forward with his decision to get all U.S. troops out of the region by the end of this month. Taliban takeover is accelerating by the minute, and the path to Kabul is wide open. So how long will it take? Let's ask senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, Bill Roggio. Bill, good to have you with us. It just seems staggering how quickly this is happening. Now that the Taliban has 18 of 34 provincial capitals, what's the latest?
Yeah, hello, Buck, and thanks for having me again. The latest is not very good at all. I estimate that the 16 of the 34 provinces, the entire provinces, are under Taliban control. In the north, they control 7 of 9 provinces. They control all 4 provinces in the west. They control all of the provinces in the south as well. So they're starting to, as you noted, they're starting to sweep into the east, and they're on the march to Kabul. 2 key provinces there, Ghazni and Logar, are currently controlled by the Taliban. Once Wardak provinces goes, and we think that may be soon. Hopefully the Afghan military and the Afghan government can organize a defense, but if they don't, look, I get the question that's always asked is when will the march on Kabul begin? Well, that's happening. When will Kabul be surrounded? It's difficult to know. Maybe we have some luck in the Afghan military and government that can organize a defense. But what we've seen right now, they have just collapsed on the battlefield. They have been defeated in detail. The Taliban is moving up towards the capital. And how long will the Afghan government hold out? Like, these are the questions we can't answer. But I think we're going to find out the answer to these questions in the next weeks or month.
Bill, isn't the Afghan army on paper several 100,000 strong? And haven't we spent a couple of decades and hundreds of billions of dollars training and equipping them? It seems to boggle the mind that this could happen as rapidly as it is.
There's 2 major questions that need to be answered about our efforts in Afghanistan. First and foremost, how did we not understand our enemy? How did we not see this Taliban offensive? How did we, and this is all part of the same question, how did we think that the Taliban was going to negotiate? But to the question you just asked, how did the Afghan army fail? And the answer to that is pretty simple. We tried to train the Afghan army, create an Afghan army that was a Western army, and it needed to be an Afghan army that was capable of fighting the Taliban, of fighting small wars, infantry units that were localized so people would defend their homes, backed up by mobile forces in the center that could be used to put out fires. We thought that numbers mattered. We have 325,000 Afghan soldiers. Yeah, but a bunch of them are ghost soldiers. And what about their quality? We never asked those questions. We never dealt with that. We pretended everything was fine. They have helicopters, they have airplanes, they have Humvees and tanks. Well, what good is that equipment if you do not have a esprit de corps, if you're not fighting for a country that is willing to back you? These soldiers are often the Afghan, I know I'm being a little hard on the Afghan military, and I'm very hard on the U.S. military. They deserve a lot of blame. We have to ask, why are we so bad at training foreign forces? But the Afghan military, we set them up to fail.
The U.S. is sending 3,000 troops, that's in process right now, as I understand it, to Kabul to assist in the evacuation of American diplomats and other personnel there. I mean, I know the Pentagon is trying to say that this is an orderly evacuation, but watching that press conference today with Kirby at the Pentagon, Bill, it felt a little bit like the guy who's telling everybody, go to the lifeboats, but stay calm.
I'll just leave it at that. I think that's a great analogy, Buck. And I'll be light on Kirby today. This is just, the administration is in pure spin mode right now. We all know what we see. It's clear to the average casual observer of what is happening in Afghanistan that it's in a state of collapse, and the U.S. government pushed the panic button earlier this week when they said it's time for all U.S. citizens to leave now any way you can. This administration did not want to put 3,000 troops back in, and yet they had to do it within a week of the Taliban going on its massive blitz. It's real failure. The administration needs to own up to this failure. The Biden administration decided to leave. It decided to abandon the Afghan military in their time of need. And now they're forced to send in 3,000 troops to evacuate the embassy and any U.S. and other personnel. It's let's hope there isn't a Saigon moment where we're seeing Afghans clinging to helicopters as the U.S. gets its last flight out.
I have to ask about this because there were reports today on Fox News that there were folks within the DoD apparatus who were saying Kabul could fall. The quote was, "Kabul could fall tomorrow." I mean, that seems. At this point, how can you say anything's improbable? That seems really fast. But given what we are seeing, I mean, what do you think is a realistic timeline if the Afghan government can't actually manage to stop this advance? How long is there going to be an Afghan government?
Yeah, it's a difficult. I mean, it's not unreasonable. The Afghan government could just pack up and leave. The first province that fell in Nimruz in southeastern Afghanistan, that's exactly what happened. The governor made the calculation. He was told by the U.S. military and the Afghan military that he wouldn't receive airstrikes. The Afghan government wasn't going to send commandos. And he decided to get while the getting is good. And so he picked him, his family, and all his supporters, and they fled into Iran and Pakistan. If the Afghan government decides, the political leaders decide that this is unwinnable, and by the way, I don't understand how they don't see this right now. I don't know what they're clinging for. Maybe they're hoping that the U.S. rides in and saves the day. I don't think that's going to happen. So that's why that's the real thing that makes it very difficult to figure out what that timeline is. Either
Bill, I
both
wanted to
the
show
Afghan
everybody
military its capability.
Based on your work, we actually have this map, time-lapse map of how quickly this has happened, and we can show everybody what has occurred here. Which is, I mean, this right now, you see the red areas is Taliban control. It's just it's falling like dominoes, province after province, capital after capital. The Taliban control. Have we seen any place where the Afghan National Army and the Afghan security forces have been able to mount a really fierce defense, or has it just been, as we watch the time lapse, one after another, the dominoes falling?
Yeah, keep in mind what you're seeing right there, those turning from orange or light yellow to red, that's 8 days. That's what the Taliban has done. Their offensive is stunning. It eclipses what the Islamic State did in Iraq in 2013 and 2014. I haven't seen Afghan security. In small units, they fought well. They held out in Lashkar-Gah and Kandahar City, but even then, they were holding blocks. It was a fait accompli that these cities were going to fall. So, as a cohesive force, the answer to your question is no. We haven't seen the Afghan security forces as individual units, yes. But as a force that is capable of defending cities and provinces and the country, that answer is no.
Unbelievable, catastrophic failure, and it is at the feet of the Biden administration, as much as our media likes to pretend otherwise. Bill, appreciate the expertise. We'll have you back next week.
Thank you, Buck. Always a pleasure.
The federal government is starting to prepare the American people for vaccine booster shots as cases of the Delta variant continue to climb around the country. We've got the latest from Fauci and company in tonight's Buck Brief. But before that, I want to discuss the most important asset you own, your home. How much equity do you have in your home? 50,000, 100,000, more? Cybercrime experts are alerting homeowners that the more equity you have, the greater the chance foreign and domestic criminals will come after you. Home title theft is one of the fastest growing crimes out there. In fact, Home Title Lock, America's leader in home title protection, is alerting homeowners they could already be a victim and not know it. Here's how it goes down. First, cyber thieves search hundreds of public databases for high equity homes. Next, they pull your home's online title, forge your signature stating you sold your home, and take out loans using your equity. You're not covered by insurance, your bank, or common identity theft programs. Protect your most valuable asset. Register your address now to see if you're already a victim and receive a complete title history of your home, a $100 value, free. Go to HomeTitleLock.com. Again, that's HomeTitleLock.com. We'll be right back with more. Hold the line. COVID-19 restrictions and vaccine mandates around the country are becoming increasingly strict as the left becomes more and more unhinged over the threat of the Delta variant. Just listen to Mika Brzezinski have a full-on meltdown over what she and the mainstream media are now calling the DeSantis variant.
And in Florida, we have a governor more interested in playing politics than saving lives, the DeSantis variant. That's why nearly 1 in 4 new COVID cases are coming out of Florida, and why many of their emergency rooms are once again jam-packed, and the state is weeks away from yet another full-blown medical crisis. Are you kidding me? This is completely preventable. And the governor of Florida owns this one. The most tragic part of this story is that almost all of these hospitalizations and deaths would have and could have been avoided if misguided Americans had not followed the crazed teachings of a growing death cult.
She's out of her mind. But let's dig a little deeper into this situation in tonight's Buck Brief. Remember when they told us that getting the shot was going to be the end? Right? You get the shot, you're done. You get the shot, it's all over. But that doesn't seem to be the case anymore, does it? No, now there are new restrictions going into place. There are new mask mandates. And in fact, there are vaccine mandates that we were told wouldn't happen. It would be a choice. That's changing very rapidly right now, all because of the Delta variant. San Francisco Mayor London Breed has now said that, oh yeah, you're going to have to provide vaccine proof for basically all public indoor activities.
We're here today is because we're actually following the lead of small businesses, and in particular, many VARs in San Francisco that decided on their own, we're going to require proof of vaccination before you enter our bar. And starting August 20th, you will need proof of vaccination in businesses for your customers in high contact areas. By October 13th, employees at these establishments must be vaccinated as well. So all of the employees need to show proof of vaccination by October 13th to their employer.
Yeah. It's coming to other places too. LA City Council tweeted, this is from Nuri Martinez, legislation passed that requires all LA residents to show proof of vaccine at the door. Quote, today the Los Angeles City Council passed legislation to require proof of COVID-19 vaccinations for Angelenos who enter indoor public spaces. Your decision to remain unvaccinated doesn't just affect you, it affects us all. Straight up, top down from these Democrat-run cities, vaccinate or else orders. Or else you don't get to live your life. Or else you don't get to go into public life at all. You can basically go from your own home, maybe to a grocery store, but you're gonna have to double mask up and they're gonna treat you like some kind of a leper if you're not vaccinated, I'm sure. Do all of that, right? Do all of that. And this is what we're facing right now. But hold on, wait, I thought we were done when we got the shots. Why is all this happening now? Oh, well, Fauci wants you to know that you're going to have to get boosters if you have a weakened immune system. That's for sure. Here's what he said.
But one thing people need to understand, we're following this extremely carefully. We will immediately be prepared, and we are prepared right now, to implement a booster program very quickly.
Doctor, if we don't get this under control in some way, do we risk the possibility of the vaccines becoming ineffective? In other words, taking us back to square one?
That is a real possibility, Lester. We don't want to frighten the public, but we want to make sure they understand.
Do you think getting a shot is an act of patriotism?
I think it really is. I mean, if patriotism is being concerned about your society as well as about yourself, then it certainly is.
Yeah. You can already start to see that the vaccines, which, if you believe the data out of Israel, do decline pretty rapidly in effectiveness. They are effective, and they are certainly something that people who are at high risk should get, but the protection they offer does decline, which is why they're talking about boosters, obviously. But if you believe that, you can see that we're heading for a whole new wave in the winter of people who are either unvaccinated or have declining protection post-vaccination who will still get infected. And you can tell that what they'll say at that point, the lockdowners, the Fauciites, is, well, if only everybody had gotten vaccinated, it would have blocked out all the variants or something. So it's still the fault of the people originally who were unvaccinated, and only the Trump ones, by the way, not all the large populations of people in cities, including a lot of minorities in cities, ethnic minorities, who have not gotten the shot. They're not actually ever blamed by the press, right? It's only unvaccinated Trump voters. They're the problem. That's what they want you to believe. That's why there are more and more of these mandates also going through with a bit of scorn attached to them, right? It's always the fault of the Trump voters out there. So, I didn't even mention Philadelphia, new indoor mask mandate among the restrictions implemented by Mayor Jim Kenney. Philadelphia officials announced sweeping restrictions on Wednesday, including a mandate effective at midnight Thursday that businesses in the city require either masks or proof of vaccination for all employees and customers. I'm upset, Mayor Kenney said. This amazes me that this is the most simple thing to do to keep your family safe. By the way, masks do nothing. Nothing. They do not stop this virus from spreading. We all know this. We've all lived for the last 18 months through this lunacy. But they want to keep going with it. Oh, wait, and by the way, the Philly mayor, before going out, had an Instagram post telling the media he's upset, but a local Maryland customer snapped a photo of the Philadelphia mayor dining in a Maryland restaurant without a mask, which is showing off, of course, his left-wing hypocrisy. Hi, Philly mayor. This was the Instagram post. Glad you're enjoying indoor dining with no social distancing or mask wearing in Maryland, while restaurants here in Philly close, suffer and fight for every nickel just to survive. I guess your press briefings, your narrative of unsafe indoor dining don't apply to you. Of course, the libs love hypocrisy. They enjoy it. Don't think that calling them out for it is going to make them stop. No, they get a delight out of having the power to be hypocrites. All right, a new report shows a record number of illegal aliens crossed in the U.S. last month, and the Biden administration is taking complete responsibility for their failure to secure the southern border, of course. Just kidding. They're blaming Donald Trump. We got more on that with the executive director of the Center for Immigration Studies, Mark Krikorian. Right now, let's talk about that morning cup of joe. If you're anything like me, you got to have a little dose of caffeine to get you going in the AM, and that starts with Black Rifle Coffee. Not only is this the most delicious coffee you'll ever get, it's a veteran-owned company, Black Rifle, that serves coffee to people who love America. They're supporting veteran law enforcement and first responders with every bag they sell to you, okay? This summer, Black Rifle wants you to really enjoy your coffee wherever it takes you. Black Rifle is here to fuel your way, and they import their coffee from all over the world. They roast it 5 days a week at their facilities in Tennessee and Utah, and the team at Black Rifle is continually researching and experimenting with new roasting methods and origins. Purchase at blackriflecoffee.com/buck and use code BUCK at checkout for 20% off your purchase and your first coffee club order. Fuel your summer with America's coffee, Black Rifle Coffee. We'll be right back.
Tragically, former President Trump slashed our international assistance to Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, slashed the resources that we were contributing to address the root causes of irregular migration.
Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is blaming former President Trump for the tidal wave of illegal immigrants pouring into the United States through the southern border. This week, Customs and Border Patrol officials announced that agents encountered over 212,000 people at the U.S.-Mexico border last month, up from about 188,000 the previous month. The July numbers are the highest in roughly 2 decades. Behind the scenes, the secretary is striking a very different tone. In leaked audio obtained by Fox News, Mayorkas acknowledges that the current situation is unsustainable and needs to be addressed aggressively. Take a listen.
This is unsustainable. These numbers cannot continue. We cannot get to a point where we were a couple weeks ago, and we're going to make sure that doesn't happen. We're looking at the policy options.
Joining me now is the executive director of the Center for Immigration Studies, Mark Krikorian. Mark, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's just start with what seems like an obvious falsehood. I mean, the idea that the Trump administration dramatically cut aid to Northern Triangle countries isn't just spin. I mean, we can show that seems to be a lie based on the numbers, Mark. I had my producers pull some of the numbers. Turns out the Trump administration, on average, it seems, gave as much or more to these countries than the Obama administration annually. Honduras, Trump, $120 million. Obama, $88 million. Guatemala, Trump, $192 million. Obama, $162 million. El Salvador, Trump, $91 million. Obama, $103 million. The notion that the cut in aid from Trump caused the crisis, what do you make of it?
The technical word for that is a crock. It's absolute nonsense. And in fact, interestingly enough, the example you gave of El Salvador, where there was a small cut in aid, El Salvador is the one place where illegal immigration is actually going down a little bit. And El Salvador is no longer the number 4 biggest country for illegal immigrants after Mexico, Guatemala, and Honduras. Now it's Ecuador, which is 1,000 miles further south. And are we going to fix their root causes too? No, this is totally on President Biden. And it's no surprise that his subordinates are basically spinning like mad to try to deflect the blame on somebody else.
I mean, this leaked audio, I'm sure you heard it today, Mark. It has the DHS secretary referring to what's going on at our southern border as unsustainable. And this is the Biden appointee down there, Biden appointee talking about this situation in a way that it's been obvious to me and you and everybody watching who's paying attention to this for many months now. But it feels like until they're walloped with political consequences, this Biden White House just keeps on going. I mean, if it's unsustainable, how are they going to allow it to continue?
Good question. I mean, I'm not sure what they can do, what is possible for this administration to actually do. The only way this is going to end is if they do a full 180-degree turn on policy and re-embrace the Trump policies. For instance, remain in Mexico. Also, there's a regulation that if you pass through other countries, you have to show that you applied for asylum there before we let you apply for asylum here. They're not going to do any of that stuff. And so it's not clear to me what they think they can do. They are doing some things, which is finally letting the Border Patrol do things like return illegal aliens at a different place along the border in order to disrupt the smuggling networks. And in other cases, flying people, instead of just pushing them across the border, sending them deeper into Mexico.
Can you explain that smuggling networks point, by the way? That's very interesting. I haven't heard that. So they're moving them. Yeah. Tell us about how that process works.
It's called lateral repatriation, which is just a fancy way of saying if you're caught in one place on the border, they fly or bus you 100 miles away and then send you back across there. The point is the smugglers you hired and the networks you were using to get across the border don't necessarily operate there. This is something the Border Patrol has done periodically for many, many years, decades. They weren't allowed to do it under Biden. Now they're so desperate that Biden people are saying, okay, we'll let you try to do your jobs a little bit. But it's a tiny little pinprick. Last month, the majority of illegal immigrants arrested by the Border Patrol were released into the United States. This is the first time that has ever happened. It doesn't matter what tactics you apply to the handful that remain if most of them are getting away with it, are being let go. And once they're in the country, the Biden administration has said publicly that there is no chance that they will be tracked down or removed if they end up becoming, remaining illegal aliens, don't go to their hearings, whatever.
Right. So is that all through abuse of the asylum process, Mark? Is that what is getting all these people, that number you just mentioned from last month? Over 220,000 apprehensions, we know, is what they saw in July. Is that asylum process stuff for the most part?
Basically, yes. It's a key. What they're doing is releasing these people in order for them to apply for asylum. Some of them are actually being released on the honor system, telling them to turn themselves into ICE when they get where they're going, so that then the process of you get into deportation proceedings and then claim asylum. These people, 80-90% of the people being released on the honor system are not even turning themselves into ICE. Of course, I'm surprised anybody is. So yes, this is the key problem here, is this archaic, anachronistic asylum system where people can just say the magic words of asylum and somehow we're handcuffed, mainly by a UN treaty that we signed, to go through this charade instead of just say sorry, no, and turn them back.
Mark, I mean, we had a record last month. I think that was the record that I saw today, that most you've had crossing in over 20 years, right? Illegally crossing in the United States. And it's going to just continue on, is it? I mean, that doesn't, from what you told me, it sounds like we got an open border. Democrats don't really care. It's going to stay pretty open. We're just going to be counting up the number at the end of the year, and it looks like that could get close to 2 million. Am I missing something?
No, you're not. This is likely to be the biggest, the highest year for Border Patrol apprehensions ever. That we're seeing monthly records now that are post 9/11 records, because before 9/11, you know, we were kind of lackadaisical about this stuff. We've gotten a little more serious since then. These are now, under this administration, we've sort of gone back to pre 9/11. In fact, it's worse than it was even back then. I don't see how this turns around. Andy McCarthy over at National Review wrote a piece basically saying, unless the president's impeached, this is just going to continue for the next 3 years. I'm not sure that he's wrong.
Are we finally going to get a higher number than 11 million in terms of people that are in the country illegally this year, you think? Are we going to get above the 11 million number?
There's no question that every month, lots of additional illegal aliens. In other words, the Biden administration is consciously adding to the illegal population, and at the same time saying, yeah, well, we have to amnesty the illegals who are already here. It's, you know, you can't say we're going to have an amnesty and then let in new illegal immigrants, because guess what? 5 years from now, they're going to say, well, we have to amnesty all of these people too. No deal. Sorry.
What an absolute lawless mess, but Democrats think they benefit from it. Mark, expertise is much appreciated, sir. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, coming up. Oh my God, a photo of a young child surrounded by men in bondage gear wins an LGBT award by Dutch pride organizers. You can't even make this stuff up. We'll discuss that in tonight's Quick Hits, among other things. But first, I want to remind you about my friends at My Digital Money. Everybody wants to invest in cryptocurrencies these days, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, or any of the dozens of tokens out there. But it's not easy to get started. That's why Colin Plume, CEO of My Digital Money, decided to create it in the first place. It's an easy-to-use, self-trading crypto IRA platform with top-tier customer service. It's one of the few U.S.-based cryptocurrency companies that will answer your phone call and help you get started, which is really critical. They want your comfort and security to be their top priority. They'll give you military-grade security for your coins, trigger orders to help you secure opportunities, and you can also test the market without risking your money with a Play Money account. The crypto market's heating up, so this might be a really good time to get into this exciting technology-based investment. When it comes to your money, you deserve a team of dedicated professionals who have your back, speak to you honestly, and treat you like a human, not a number. Check them out at mydigitalmoney.com. That's mydigitalmoney.com. Friday edition of Quick Hits up next. The most cringeworthy pro-vaccine songs you'll ever hear, and a heroic Latvian firefighter saving a man from suicide caught on camera. Got a bunch of quick hits to get to. Let's do it. Look, this one, it's just a sort of safety alert for your eyes. I mean, the team showed me this. I said, this can't be something that really got an award, right? This can't be real, but it is. A photo of a child surrounded by men in fetish bondage gear has won a Dutch LGBTQ award. I don't even know what this award is. I don't want to know, but I just know that this is wildly inappropriate. It is wrong. It is bizarre. What the hell is going on? How can anyone not see this? And you start to have to think, start to have to worry. Maybe people do see, some people do see, and they just don't care. You should ask why that is. The agenda to take away the innocence of our children in so many of these different campaigns about transgenderism and gender identity, and now just the exposure of this kind of thing to children at a very young age is appalling. But there's a very real campaign by the left to do this. Part of it must be brainwashing, but at some level, maybe it's also making society almost collectively guilty in destroying the innocence of children with this stuff. Certainly destroying their ability to just have the normal course of life where they might have some questions about their gender when they're 10 years old, and then all of a sudden they're being told, oh, well, you should transition. No, they should probably just be told, it's okay, people, go through periods and you'll be fine. But that's not what's going on with the agenda of the left, as we know. All right. A cringeworthy pro-vax song. I mean, I can't describe it as well as we can have you learn about or hear about it by playing it, so let's do that.
Vaccinate, vaccinate, make an appointment. Vaccinate, vaccinate, make an appointment. Shut the arm, shut the arm, turn it on. Gotta make time to go. Gotta make time to go. Make it through the clinic. Now it's time to vaccinate Chicago.
Get that shot. Yeah, that's what they want you to. That's what they want you to. Look, if you want to get the shot, that's fine. But just understand that they're not making you, and they said they weren't going to make you because they pretended to appreciate individual liberty and medical freedom enough that they knew that. Oh no, but that was all just a lie. It's all incrementalism meant to lull you into a false sense of common ground with the lockdown Fauciites, and then the moment that they can stir up enough panic, they destroy whatever freedom you think that you had agreed upon with them in the past. That's the way they're doing all of this. I'll tell you right now, I'm facing a situation where I have my own brother's wedding next week. So I'll be out next Friday from the show. And my own brother's wedding, and guess what? You have to be vaccinated to go to some of the venues. There's a couple of different venues. And they're not really making any exemptions for people with previous infection or anything else. Not even enough to provide a negative COVID test. You have to be vaccinated to go. So where does that leave someone like me who had the virus, cleared the virus, has antibodies? They're saying, doesn't matter what the medical truth is, get the shot or else you can't go to your brother's wedding. So what choice does one really have, other than obviously not go to the wedding, which is not a choice. I'm not going to do that. But this is the kind of turning the screws that they engage in. The kind of coercion they promised they would never do. They're absolutely doing it, and they're going to do more of it, and they're going to make it happen for more shots, too. You're not going to be one and done, I can assure you of that. All right, let's end on a happier note. A Latvian firefighter caught a man during a suicide attempt. Watch. That's a great catch. Wow. That's on the spot stuff there. Have a great weekend, everybody. Go enjoy yourself. Take some time away from the news. Do yourself a favor with all that. And we'll be back with you Monday to update you on everything you need. We got the No Spin News with Bill O'Reilly up next. Shields high.